On talkSPORT, I'm Adam Catterall. Gareth Davies is alongside me. Latino Night, sponsored by Riyadh Season. Last weekend saw the unification in the Cruiserweight division, where Zurdo Ramirez came through and got the job done over Britain's own Chris Billam-Smith. I got this one wrong. I thought that Zurdo would absolutely have success in the fight, but I thought that Chris Billam-Smith, given the fact that he would make it horrible and ugly and get in on the inside and make it dirty, I thought that he would be able to do very similar to what he did with Matthias Masternak. When Masternak was outboxing him, I thought that he would find a way against Zurdo Ramirez, but I was absolutely wrong. Zurdo Ramirez was sensational last weekend. His footwork, his shot selection, and the way that he navigated that fight really does now set up a super fight with him and Jai Opetaia. You've got to take your hat off to Chris Billam-Smith. He rolled the dice, he went for it. He never stopped trying to win, but he was just completely outclassed.
Yeah, well, I was on record. I've watched. I've been at a few fights of Zurdo, the Golden Southpaw, as he's known in Spanish. I'd had the privilege of watching him in his super middleweight period a couple of times live, and I was so impressed with him. He's a sneaky southpaw. He's got bigger as he's got older, and he's filled out. He used to be a gangly thing of 6'3", but he was capable of going into wars. And I picked him to win on points or by late stoppage even. Chris was extraordinary as well on the night. Courage and cojones in droves. And that's why Shane McGuigan, in spite of the broken thumb we heard afterwards, the ribs...
Oh, he's damaged himself up, yeah.
Really, the cut from early on. We were watching it in Texas, myself, Ed, Spencer and Romario, in an Uber on the way to the stockyard to see the rodeo on the Saturday night. And it just seemed to be a fight that went on for 25 rounds. It was so grueling. Zurdo was always just one step ahead.
I agree.
But Chris had moments, even in the 9th, 10th and 11th, when he was battling back.
Yep.
I had it 8-4 to Zurdo, 16-12. I love the fact that Mauricio Suleiman has come out after and said he is such a great champion that we want to rank Billam-Smith highly. And because Badu Jack is the champion in recess and the belt's gone to Noel Mikhailian, he could even have a world title shot next.
That's what
or even
about.
after. I think that's great for him. And he's kind of... Listen, I picked against him with Riakporhe. I picked against him with Akoli and was totally wrong about Billam-Smith. He's an extraordinary man he's got a champion's heart. There's no doubt he's got champion in his soul. And I think he deserves a world title shot again, in spite of just having lost that fight.
Well, I think we've just been speaking, obviously, extensively tonight about the landscape of boxing and where we're currently at. This year's been a good year because we're getting fights that we want to see. And I think a lot of fight fans have bought in on the Chris Billam-Smith story because he's backed up the things that he said that he was going to do. He's won a world title, and then he's not defended it in a Mickey Mouse defence. He's taken on the toughest defence, and then he's brought in the fight with Riakporhe, where he could have swerved that. He didn't do that. He took him on in his own backyard and beat him. And then he's taken... I think the dream was actually to fight in America, but it just so happened that it happened out in Saudi Arabia against Zurdo Ramirez. That's a tough fight, and he's fallen short. But it's the manner of which he goes about fighting. It's all on the line. It's all heart. It's all will. And listen, there's a lot of skill there as well. But you're going to get bang for your buck with Chris Billam-Smith. And I'm not against him fighting the WBC champion straight away,
even though it's not meritocratic, as you really do push very hard.
Yes, absolutely.
And you deserve praise for
agree.
that. But he has. But Riakporhe's number 6 with them. Masternak's number 13 with the WBC.
He's beaten them both.
So he's beaten them both. So do you slide him in at 5? The problem he's got is Noel Mikhailian going to agree to fight him? Because no one wants to fight Billam-Smith in reality. But on the other side of it. Zurdo against Jai Opetaia, Adam, flipping heck. I nearly swore then. Flipping heck.
It's in your top 3 fights for 2025, isn't it?
Oh my God, 2 southpaws. Look what Zurdo's just done. Jai Opetaia's power is the thing for me. I think he stops him late.
Jai is... The thing is with Jai, he burst onto everybody's scene off the back of the Bradis fights, and he's beaten a couple of British lads in these Riyadh seasons. And everybody's gone, oh, he's just a knockout artist. He's much more than that. He's a very accomplished, technical fighter. But
he's a horrible man to fight.
But he does have power. And this is the beautiful thing about it. And this is why I wanted to see him in with Chris Billam-Smith, because I thought that would be purely a battle of will. Whose will would go first? I don't think either of them would go first, but then the skill would rise, and I thought that Jai Opetaia might come through that particular fight. I think Jai would beat Zero Ramirez, but having watched what I've seen at the weekend just gone, it's a super fight. I want to see it, and it's in my top 3 for 2025.
I think it's very close for 8 rounds, seven rounds, and then I think Jai's got this weird power. And you know, I hope Chris gets to fight Jai at some point. Chris is one of those guys, just to go back to him for a second, who... I hate using this expression about a man who's still in his purple patch in his career. He's almost too tough for his own good, and he might almost need saving from himself eventually. Because but
that's what makes him brilliant to watch.
He is amazing to watch.
Just a quick one as well on that card. A guy that I'm so high on. I actually flattered to deceive a little bit last week. I felt a little bit for Tevin Farmer in the fight with William Zepeda. I'm a massive fan of Zepeda, and I want to see him in with Shakur Stevenson. But there was a few questions that come off the back of that fight. I thought Tevin Farmer was absolutely brilliant last weekend, as was Honorable Barboza Jr., who did the business against Jose Ramirez.
And also Oscar, I forget his surname now, the minimum weight fighter. Duarte. I'm telling you.
What a fighter.
Under Miguel Cotto de Puerto Rico, tío. He is going to be... I saw a special fighter there. A very, very special fighter. And led by the man in his pink clogs, Cotto, he will take him to the very, very top.
Hey, you didn't expect that this evening, did you? Next week, it is Sonny Edward versus Galal Yafai, so we're bringing everything back to British soil. I know there's a lot of fights taking place away from British soil at the moment, but next week, Birmingham's the destination for an absolute cracker. We'll talk about it next.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.